Good morning, guys. I have a discussion aid for you this morning. We are discussing Sonoma County, California caregivers um, are telling America we can't do this alone. So we are going to dig into their story for see what it entails and see how they have handled or handling their situation. So here we go with today's presentation I made for you. Please enjoy. Title: We can't do this alone. What Sonoma County's caregivers are telling America. Sonoma County's caregivers have said the quiet parts out loud. We can't do this alone. Their message voiced in community briefings, local reporting, and the trembling honesty of lived experience is not a regional lament. It is a national warning. One we ignore at our pearl if we continue to treat caregiving as a private duty rather than a public responsibility, the consequences will fall hardest on the people holding our long-term care system together with their bodies, their paychecks, and their health. The invisible workforce keeping dementia care afloat. In Sonoma County, nearly 1 in 3 residents will be over 60 by 2030. A demographic shift that mirrors what's happening across the country. Many of these older adults live with dementia, disability, or chronic illness. Yet the county, like the nation, relies overwhelmingly on unpaid family caregivers to provide daily labor of bathing, feeding, transporting, supervising, and soothing loved ones who can no longer navigate the world safely on their own. These caregivers are not volunteers. They are the backbone of long-term care, and they are breaking. One caregiver described forgetting her own medications while managing her husband's. Another said she longed for a comforting voice, not a hotline, not a pamphlet, but a human presence who understood the loneliness of watching a partner disappear in slow motion. Immigrant caregivers spoke of culture, expectations, that caregiving must remain within the family, even when the strain becomes unbearable. Many reported worsening physical health, depression, and isolation. These are not anecdotes, they are data points. In a collapsing system, a system that depends on unpaid labor while offering little in return. Adult day programs, the lifeline we keep underfunding. Sonoma caregivers repeatedly pointed to the one intervention that actually works. Adult day programs at Today and Together, a local center. Caregivers describe their loved ones literally dancing out of the door. Structured daytime care restores dignity, reduces behavioral symptoms. And gives families the one thing they cannot manufacture on their own: respites. But access is limited, waiting lists are long, weekend and evening options are scarce, and culturally competent programs, especially those serving immigrant communities, are often harder to find. We treat adult day programs as optional amenities. They are not. They are clinical interventions that stabilize families, prevent hospitalizations, and delay nursing home placement. If we funded them like the health infrastructure they are, caregivers would not be begging for help. The myth of self-care and the reality of caregiving harm. Experts in Sonoma County noted a shrinking pattern. Caregivers' health often declines faster than the health of the person they are caring for. Yet our public messaging still leans on the hollow language of self-care, as if a bubble bath or a mindfulness app could could counteract the psychological toll of chronic stress, sleep disruption, and physical labor. Caregivers do not need self-care tips. They need structural support. They need transportation. They need respite. They need care coordination that doesn't require a PhD in bureaucracy. They need cult- culturally and linguistic, linguistic, linguistically accessible services. They need adult day programs that match the scale of the population they serve. And they need policymakers to stop treating caregiver burnout as a personal failure rather than a predictable outcome of underbuilt systems. A national mirror. What's happening in Sonoma County is happening everywhere. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Texas. The geography changes, but the story does not. As America ages, we have quietly shifted long-term care from institutions to households without building the community infrastructure required to make that shift humane or sustainable. The result is a shadow workforce of daughters, spouses, neighbors, and friends who are absorbing billions of dollars of unpaid labor while scaffolding, while, while sacrificing their own health, careers, and financial stability. We cannot continue to pretend this is a private family matter. It is a public health issue. It is an economic issue. It is a moral issue. The path forward. Sonoma County's master plan for aging offers a blueprint. Expand adult day programs. Strengthen transportation. Coordinate services across agencies. And elevate caregiver voices in policy making. But the country does not solve this alone. States and federal leaders must treat caregiving as essential infrastructure, funded, staffed, and measured accordingly. Caregivers have already told us what they need. The question is whether we will listen. Because if Sonoma County has made anything clear, it is this. Caregivers are not doing everything. They are doing it alone. Oh, the caregivers are doing everything, and they are doing it alone. A humane society would never let that stand. Now, guys, we just went through Sonoma counties in California, their situation. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare it to Pennsylvania's. So here you go for a second half. From Sonoma County's Aging and Disability Action Plan, it is a structured, vivid, and legislative ready and written entirely as the representative's voice, not mine. Guided links embedded so you can pivot into deeper components as needed. Okay, guys, here's the floor speech that I have prepared for comparing Pennsylvania's situation to Sonoma County. Here, Pennsylvania's needs, an aging and caregiving blueprint. Madam Speaker, colleagues, arise today because Pennsylvania is facing a quiet emergency, one that touches every district, every family, and every future budget we will vote on it is the emergency facing our older adults, our neighbors living with disabilities, and the caregivers who hold our long-term care system together. With their bodies, their paychecks, and their health. We are an aging commonwealth, In some of our rural counties, nearly 1 in 4 residents is already over 65. Dementia rates are rising. Disability rates are rising, and more care is being delivered in homes, not because families suddenly have more capacity, but because our systems have fewer options. Caregivers are doing everything, and they are doing it alone. A model from the West Coast and a warning for us. Recently, Sonoma County Board of Supervisors in California approved a 10-year aging and disability action plan. They did something bold. They treated caregiving as essential infrastructure. They listened to caregivers who said, "We cannot do this alone." And they believed them. Their plan includes 6 pillars: housing stability, transportation access, health and behavioral health, integration, equity and inclusion, economic security, and for the first time, caregiving as a named priority. They built a blueprint for aging that is coordinated, measurable, and accountable. Pennsylvania has the ingredients for such a plan, but we do not yet have the architecture. The cost of doing nothing. When caregivers burn out, the consequences fall directly onto our systems. Avoidable emergency department visits, premature nursing home placement, workforce loss, worsening health outcomes. Rising Medicaid costs, rising Medicaid long-term costs. We see this in northwestern Pennsylvania. Every day, families are collapsing under the strain. Adult children are leaving the workforce. Spouses are skipping their own medical appointments. Rural caregivers cannot reach the services that exist. And too many older adults are entering institutions not because they need them, but because their caregivers have nothing left to give. This is not sustainable, and it is not inevitable. What Pennsylvania must do next? We need a Pennsylvania aging and caregiving blueprint, a coordinated decade-long plan that aligns with our counties, our health system, and our aging agencies. On aging and our Medicaid long-term care partners. Such as a plan must include caregiving as a named policy priority, caregiver health, respite access, and stability must become measurable outcomes. Adult day and respite as infrastructure. These programs prevent hospitalizations, stabilize dementia, and keep families intact. Rural equity strategy. Appalachian communities, Black caregivers in Erie, Pittsburgh, immigrant caregivers in agricultural counties, all deserve place-based solutions. Transportation integration in rural Pennsylvania, a service that cannot be reached is a service that does not exist. A 10-year horizon. Aging policy cannot be built every budget cycle. It requires stability, planning, and accountability. This is not new spending. It is strategic spending, the kind that prevents crisis rather than pays for them. Our caregivers are telling us the truth. They are telling us that they are exhausted. They are telling us they are isolated. They are telling us that they're afraid of what will happen when they can no longer lift, drive, bathe, or supervise the person they love. They are telling us they cannot do this alone. And colleagues, they shouldn't have to. Pennsylvania can lead the nation in building a humane, modern, and fiscally responsible long-term care system. We can build the infrastructure that keeps families stable, keeps older adults safe, and keeps caregivers healthy enough to continue the work they never asked for, but out of love. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting the creation of a Pennsylvania aging and caregiving blueprint. Our caregivers deserve more than gratitude. They deserve a system that stands with them. Thank you. Okay, guys, that's your A for today. I will be back on in a couple hours with more shows. Give me a little bit and I'll be back on shortly with a couple more shows. Thank you.